Hello and welcome to Arsenal Analysed. I'm JC. I hope you're doing well. In this video, I break down Arsenal versus Leicester, an entertaining game to say the very least. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, a like would be super appreciated. And if you're new around here, why not consider subscribing, as it massively helps me out. Now, what we'll be covering in today's video. First things first, a quick couple of thoughts on the lineup and substitutions, followed by a breakdown of statistics and tactics. Then we'll be having an in-depth look of some of the key moments from Arsenal versus Leicester, and then some key players as well, in my opinion. And then to finish up, a couple of shout-outs for those of you who did pop your predictions in the preview video. So without no further ado, let's jump into my thoughts on the lineup and substitutions. Now, Cedric started at right back. I think Tomiyasu has been out for a few weeks now. As much as we would love to see him back in this Arsenal lineup, it's a good thing that Arteta is not rushing things. And if he's not quite right already, we don't want to bring him back into this lineup and cause more damage than it's worth. Martinelli did get the nod on the left. Emile Smith-Rowe coming back from COVID. Maybe he wasn't quite 100% right. Obviously, he came on as a substitution. And there were moments where he did look very good. And with a game coming up midweek, we've got 3 in the space of 7 days. He will no doubt be utilised as a starter sometime in the next 2 games. Now, as we discuss in most of these videos, for those of you who watch on a regular basis, when the team is fully fit, it really does pick itself. There were no other real surprises for me in who started. Again, Nicolas Pepe did come on. It was very late on in the game this time, not really enough to make much of an impact. But at this point, Arsenal were fairly comfortable at 2-0. So it makes sense that both Nketiah and Pepe came on at a later part in the game, because we weren't looking for those impact substitutions. Now, looking at the statistics and tactics from both teams, one thing that did really surprise me was that Arsenal only had 46% possession. I do appreciate that the first sort of 20 to 25 minutes was all Arsenal, and it was very similar in that second half as well. But Leicester did finish the stronger team at the end of the first half. They did seem to have far more possession of the ball, and it was very much the same in the second half. They did need to go at Arsenal to really try and get something from the game. One other thing that did surprise me, given that, well, Arsenal seem to be punished by referees quite often, 8 fouls, no yellow or red cards for Arsenal. So that was a huge, huge shock for me. And Arsenal, yet again, registering around 21 shots in the game. So we're seeing that consistency in the amount of chances that Arsenal is starting to create. It's mainly 18 plus in every single game now. So things that you love to see. Now, one thing that did surprise me when it comes to the passing shape of Arsenal is, in most recent months, it's always Bukayo Saka who seems to be the furthest player forward in the Arsenal lineup. But on this occasion, it was Martinelli. And we can see here on that left-hand side, as we've highlighted on many different occasions, those little triangles of Kieran Tierney, Xhaka and Martinelli. Same on the right-hand side with Cedric and Odegaard, as well as Saka. And then in midfield, it seems as though Partey's taken more of a sort of right-hand biased in terms of his positioning. In recent weeks, we've seen him sitting slightly more central, so that if Arsenal are counter-attacked, there are those 3 defensively minded players in Partey, White and Gabriel. But the tactics worked. I'm a happy Arsenal fan. I'm sure a lot of you watching are happy as well. And if we have a look at Leicester's lineup here, it's no surprise that the majority of their players are clustered towards their left-hand side to counter what has been a fantastic blossoming relationship in what we've seen from Odegaard and Saka, the 2 most informed players for Arsenal at the moment. So they had to put measures in place to try and stop those 2 from playing football. Unfortunately for Leicester, it just didn't work. And if we have a look at the corresponding heat maps for both sides, there are no surprises there whatsoever, because, as I said, a lot of what Arsenal done well came down that right-hand side. Don't get me wrong, there were spells where Martinelli had some flashes of brilliance and got in behind, and then likewise when Smith-Rowe came on. But we can see this new over-reliance, if you will, on Saka and Odegaard on the right-hand side. post this season, or should I say pre this season, when we're looking at last year, for example, there was that over-reliance on Kieran Tierney. As I highlighted in my most recent video, has Arteta improved Arsenal? We've now seen a change, but we can be just as dangerous on the left and the right. So we've got variation and we're becoming far more unpredictable in what we can do moving forward. And a lot of this is highlighted in the next section of this video, where we'll be breaking down some of the key moments in the games, as well as looking at some of the systems and tactics used and implemented by Arteta. So as we can see in this first picture here, labeled number 1, really straightforward stuff. Thomas Partey's goal. Arsenal are one of the top teams in the Premier League for scoring goals from set pieces. I believe this is now 10 goals from set pieces for Arsenal. Arsenal only registered 6 in the entirety of last season. Arsenal has now played 26 games and scored 10 goals from set pieces. So more than a 50% increase in what we're getting from set pieces, which is great to see. Now, in picture number 2, I wanted to highlight the 2 yellow players. On the bottom part, we've got Granit Xhaka, and the other yellow player making that burst-in run forward is Martin Odegaard. And these 2 yesterday, alongside Thomas Partey, were absolutely fantastic. And a lot of what Arsenal done well came through Xhaka and Odegaard. Those were the 2 players that really helped unlock Leicester throughout those 90 minutes, especially in those first 25, where it was just a bombardment of Arsenal attack, Arsenal attack, Arsenal attack. But what I've also highlighted in picture number 2 are these triangles, these interplays between Cedric, Saka and Odegaard. Eventually, Cedric does get beyond Saka. The ball does eventually land with him and a ball does come into the box. And this is the move that eventually ends up in Thomas Partey hitting the bar, a player that probably could have had a hat-trick yesterday had things gone his way. In picture number 3, one thing that I did want to highlight is that we saw another world-class save from Aaron Ramsdale. The black line shows us where the ball came in from, and in the yellow circle, followed by the yellow arrow, is the player winning the header and then the flight of the ball. Not really too much to analyse here. It is what it is, and Aaron Ramsdale makes yet another world-class save. And Brendan Rodgers even made some comments about it after the game. In picture number 4, we can see here highlighted the VAR decision for Arsenal to be awarded a penalty. Fine margins. And this was one of the reasons why VAR was brought in the first place. Yes, it may have been only the very slightest of touches. And in real time, there is no possible way that the referee could have seen this and given the penalty. Although it may seem to be harsh to some fans, it is the right decision. Had that been Arsenal on the end of a decision like that, probably would have been a different conversation. But look, it's nice to see Arsenal get some decisions from VAR. So now, having cleared up the key moments in the game, let's go into some of the tactics and some of the system changes that we've seen at Arsenal. Now, one thing that I did want to talk about here, we can see in picture number 1, is the system that Leicester decided to go with. And on paper, it did seem more like a 4-2-3-1 when they actually had possession of the ball. Maddison did seem to get forward on occasions as well. But if we have a look here in the yellow circle that I'm highlighting, we've got Maddison looking to try and win the ball from Martin Odegaard. And the black line shows that he and Iheanacho are looking to isolate Thomas Partey at times, stopping him from being that anchor in midfield. And then here in the other black line, we can see 3 Leicester players really trying to make it difficult for Arsenal to find space. And this, again, is highlighted with Granit Xhaka being the furthest player forward in that new role, that advanced number 8 type role. Now, this is further highlighted in picture number 2 here. We can see that midfield triangle where Odegaard and Granit Xhaka are beyond Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey playing as that single pivot. And here has got so much space. We can see here in the black circle next to Thomas Partey, that is Maddison. He is not closing down that space. It's allowing Granit Xhaka to have the option to play a pass to either Odegaard, Thomas Partey, or even Kieran Tierney if needs be. The ball does end up with Martin Odegaard. We can see here that Leicester try to close the ball down by creating an overload on the left. The other midfield players having to come across to close the ball down. And that is allowing all of this space here for Martin Odegaard and Thomas Partey, which does eventually end up with the ball being played through to Martinelli, who was offside. Now, in picture number 3, this again just highlights the way that Leicester were trying to block and stop Thomas Partey playing. We can see here in the yellow circle, we've got Maddison and Iheanacho there. They're stopping that pass from Ben White going into Thomas Partey to be that anchor in midfield. And in the black circle in the top right-hand corner, we can see here that Martin Odegaard and Xhaka have actually changed positions, with Martin Odegaard being the furthest player on the right, causing those problems, asking those questions. Nicely marked by the Leicester players, but again, creating space for the other attacking players, for the likes of Saka, Odegaard and Xhaka to move into. We can see here in the blue circle that Lacazette is the furthest player on the right-hand side, pulling players away from their positions. And Granit Xhaka in the red circle there, you can see him pulling away from Mendy because of that space that has been created in behind. However, as highlighted in some of my previous videos, in picture number 4 here, Arsenal are implementing that high press. Granit Xhaka and Odegaard, the furthest players forward. Now, on this occasion, Leicester did manage to bypass that press and get beyond Granit Xhaka and Odegaard, and it does create big gaps for players to move into, and Leicester did manage to create an opportunity off the back of this. It does isolate Thomas Partey. We can see here the red circle highlights the player with the ball, and just behind Thomas Partey, there's another player making a run in behind. It gives Thomas Partey a decision that he has to make, one he probably doesn't want to make, but he has to split the two players, and it does make it a little bit more awkward. And with Xhaka not being the quickest or more mobile player in the Arsenal team, it's difficult for him to bust the gut and get back in. Now, to further break down some of the system changes here, as highlighted in my most recent video, has Arteta improved Arsenal? Arsenal are becoming a very difficult team to break down, and we can see this here in picture number 1. We've got 2 banks of 4, followed by 2 players up top. Those 2 players up top being Lacazette and Martin Odegaard. What it does mean is that if and when Arsenal do win this ball back, they're in a really, really good position to break and cause problems. And this is highlighted in picture number 2 here. We can see that there are 5 Arsenal players highlighted in these circles against 4 Leicester players. It does end up in a shot on goal. Unfortunately, not a goal itself. But again, highlighting here in the 2 blue circles, Martin Odegaard and Granit Xhaka, making those numbers up in the attack. We have seen a huge difference in the way Arsenal are setting up, especially in those counter-attacks. And again, in picture number 3, it's highlighted. We can see here in the 3 yellow circles, we've got Bukayo Saka, we've got Lacazette, and we've got Martinelli, all of which are being marked by their respective opposite numbers. But what you've seen here in midfield is on the break in the blue circles, we've got Granit Xhaka and Martin Odegaard again asking the question. But we've got Mendy on his own. Who does he go to? Does he go to Xhaka? Does he block that space where Martin Odegaard is running into? The ball does eventually end up on the left-hand side. And for those of you who do remember, this is the opportunity where Gabriel Martinelli does get in behind the Leicester backline. A fantastic individual move from him. But again, because of the way we're breaking forward with extra numbers in midfield, in previous seasons, it was only 1 midfield player. There weren't as many numbers moving forward. And this may have contributed to why Arsenal didn't score as many goals last season. And it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful to see. And finally, we can see here in picture number 4, Arsenal again pressing high. Again, something that I highlighted in my previous video. Arsenal very much looking to implement a system similar to Manchester City, pushing that ball really high into the final third, looking to win the ball back to create problems within 7 to 8 seconds. Again, we can see here in the 2 yellow circles, we've got Emile Smith-Rowe and Lacazette pushing the ball really, really high, asking a question of Leicester. And because, again, we've got those 2 high number 8s in Martin Odegaard and Granit Xhaka, we're able to win the ball back in a really, really good position. And we've seen very similar scenarios against the likes of Norwich earlier this season, where we actually beat them and we won the ball within 8 seconds. The ball goes from left to right and Arsenal managed to score a goal. Didn't quite happen on this occasion for this particular move, but we're seeing these pressures and it's beautiful to see. This is only going to get better and better. So who do I think were the key players on the day for Arsenal? I've got 3 players on screen. You may agree, you may disagree, but Ben White is someone that when Arsenal signed him, I wasn't against the signing. I wasn't one of these Arsenal fans that were upset that we paid £50 million for him. But the point I want to make here is I always thought that Gabriel was going to be the main man at centre-back. But the more Ben White plays and the more I watch him play, he is absolutely class. And considering his age and the relationship that he's building up with the likes of Ramsdale and Gabriel, I cannot wait to see where he is in 2 to 3 years' time. And whether or not he may get a call-up to the England squad, he certainly deserves it over other players, Harry Maguire, for example. But yesterday we saw 3 clearances, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles, 3 duels, 1 out of 4. Those are 3 out of 3 ground duels, in fact, and a 90% passing accuracy, which is absolutely fantastic. An absolute dream for anyone playing in midfield as well, because you know he's going to comfortably bring that ball out from the back and then hopefully start an attack. Now, another player that just continues to impress week in, week out, and I continue to say it, how on earth did we manage to pick Martin Odegaard up for 30 to 35 million pounds? A player at the age of 23 years old. Wow. Just wow. Pundits, football fans, they're all dribbling over this player. I think he has to be hands down bargain of the season. Yes, there are some other players that have played really well outside of Arsenal, but for me, for 35 million pounds, for the sort of work and impact that he's had, it's an absolute joke. 80% passing accuracy, 27 passes into the final third, which is ridiculous. 6 key passes, which is more than any other Arsenal players combined yesterday. 1 out of 2 successful dribbles and 6 successful duels out of 12. He was handed man of the match. Was it the right call? I don't know. Very, very close between him and Thomas Partey. I personally gave it to Thomas Partey. He has been nothing short of a Rolls Royce in midfield since that Manchester City game. What a player. He scored a goal yesterday with his head. Both goals have come from set pieces for Thomas Partey. As already mentioned, he could have quite easily have had a hat-trick against Leicester. But 83% passing accuracy, an absolute dominant figure in that pivot, that single pivot in midfield, protecting that back four, starting off attacks, 1 key pass, 4 tackles, and 6 out of 6 duels. The midfield for Arsenal at the moment, for me, is everything good that is actually happening at the football club. Yes, we could talk about Partey Xhaka. He's been absolutely brilliant of late, and he had another fantastic game. Cedric, a player that I didn't think was good enough to play for Arsenal, has really stepped up in the absence of Tomiyasu, a player that I thought we probably needed to replace a new backup, an understudy to Tomiyasu. But with only a year or so left on his contract, as a backup player, he may not necessarily be a bad choice at all. Granit Xhaka is another one, a top performance from him. He doesn't get spoken enough about. When he plays poorly, everyone wants to jump on him. But then when he's banging out those 7, 8s, or even 9s out of 10, he does not get the praise that he deserves. So some fantastic performances. Lacazette as well being that glue up top, a player that will be very difficult to replace come the summer. But let me know down in the comments below, who was your man of the match? Odegaard, Thomas Partey, maybe someone else. And finally, just to finish up, we've got only a couple of shout outs this time who have commented on the preview video in the build up to this game. We've got Judge Dredd going 2-1 to the Arsenal, which is what I went for. And then we've got Keith from Mostly Arsenal, who went 2-0 after the game had finished. So a bit of a cheeky one. I think he originally went 3-1, but I wanted to include it anyway. So thank you both very much for coming along and dropping a comment on the preview video. And if you want to feature in a future video, that's all you need to do is comment on a preview video. The next one being Arsenal versus Liverpool. What a game that's going to be. So that's going to about wrap things up for today. The next video will be, as mentioned, Arsenal versus Liverpool preview, which should drop tomorrow, I think. But if you have enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like. It is super appreciated. And if you're new around here, why not consider subscribing? It massively helps me out. I'm around about 35 subscribers off of 1,200. So please go and hit that subscribe button. But for now, I'm JC, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe and take care.